in support of more smaller parties showing up. I think our multi-party system is a good one to maintain, but at the end of the day, you can't control how people vote, and if they're voting for two main parties, if there's two main camps emerging, then that is the people's will, and the only thing we can do is try and maintain as much collaboration as possible.
Sophia's asking whether whether the government will change the road colors to a darker shade like that of Hamilton.
I don't believe we currently have any plans for that, but that would be a question for and the DCT secretary.
Thornton's asking from TPA News, what's the current administration's plan to prevent another financial crisis?
Currently, as I said in one of my announcements a few days ago, I think we have currently a pretty unprecedented opportunity with the recent financial collapse to set up our economy and our financial system for something better that will not lend itself to the structural issues that we saw a lot of banks facing. I think we need strong regulation, not only from the DOC, but also from Congress. I think we need public transparency reports for financial institutions. I think we need an active government that is going to be investigating into the state of financial institutions as we've been doing in the lead up to the financial crisis. And I think we also need to, as consumers, be more wary of where we're putting our money, and do more investigation into the institutions that we're trusting with our money. That's the one thing I would recommend to the general citizens of Redmond is do your research.
Ariel Ems is asking whether you support high crime punishments which have increased corruption, political espionage, electoral fraud, bribery, and breach of integrity. He's asking this question as the Increased High Crimes Punishments Act failed in the House, and Ariel Ems is curious whether you'd support it.
I came out in support of increased punishments for high crimes. It's disappointing to hear that it failed in the House, but ultimately I do think that a lot of our crimes, our fines are outdated and not adjusted for inflation. And oftentimes are essentially just slaps on the wrist for people that have committed these major crimes like corruption and electoral fraud and treason. I am in favor of increased fines for these crimes.
Morsak is asking, in recent days, there has been considerable talk around war with Alexandria. I know you've made some comments around this before, but can you clarify your position on the proposed war and on those who are pushing for it?
I am strongly against war. I've always been a proponent of peace. My administration will not be waging any war against Alexandria. I have tried my best to strengthen our diplomatic position with Alexandria and strengthen our ties. And I think the attempt to fabricate a casus belli against the relatively peaceful Alexandrians is pretty shameful.
Sophia is asking, what is the president's stance on a potential change in the voting system of both chambers? As some people think that having both chambers having the same voting system for elections is bad in case of Senate STV happening.
When I was in the House, I pushed for STV in the Senate and a party list proportional representation in the House. I would still be generally in favor of such a system, but I am not as the president. That's not necessarily my place to push for those reforms. That's more of a congressional affair. But I would be generally in support of electoral reform.
I'd personally just like to note that in the case of STV being implemented in the Senate, it would still be a different electoral system because Senate uses staggered elections. It's Stormcraft's asking, what is the president's opinion on the recent House drama concerning Deputy Speaker Ruby Luby?
My opinion is that a lot of it was overblown. I'm not going to necessarily throw my hat in the ring, other than to say that it became a situation that was larger than it really needed to be.
Frostify is asking, what are your plans for adjusting department pay for other departments?
Um, we are working currently on increasing and overhauling DOJ pay, and we're always looking to adjust wages to be as fair as possible. But currently, I think we're at a pretty satisfactory level. If there are any further changes with department pay, there'll be relatively minor adjustments.
Better Call Pigeon is asking, what are your opinions on balancing serious politics with good old-fashioned policymaking that benefits citizens and the engagement of the player base through more fun bills/events?
I mean, I think you can do both. In general, I'm more in favor of quote unquote serious politics. I've always tried to make changes that actually, benefit people on the ground level, your everyday player. And I've not been in favor of like joke bills. Like for example, I think Congress is currently deliberating on like the Pipe Down Act that says something like the DOE will make pipe bombs. Generally, I think that's a little below our bar. I think we can do better. I'm appearing to be kicked out of the game, but I'm gonna rejoin in just a second. But yeah, in general, I'm more in favor of serious politics, but fun events and fun role playing can be fun as well.
Uh, James the Slay is asking, from what they know, the government hasn't met with the Alexandrian Prime Minister. Will you?
Could you repeat the question?
Whether you will meet with the Alexandrian Prime Minister.
I'd love to have a meeting with the Alexandrian Prime Minister. There is not currently any plans to do so. But if Prime Minister Dartenboy was interested in an international meeting, I'd certainly be interested in obliging.
Relimes us asking whether it's true you'll be vetoing the bill that restored everyone's faith in Redmond's power if it passes the Senate.
I have said I'm not in favor of joke bills, and I also am aware that the DCT secretary is not in favor of this bill that would make essentially a some more menial work for the DCT to do like once a year. I'm not currently set on whether or not I would veto it, but I will come out and say that I'm not in favor of it at the very least.
Um, Morisaki is asking, are there any plans to raise the pay of trade jobs like those of lumberjacks and miners, most of whom are new players and will benefit from a subsidized income given low selling prices for raw materials?
This is something that we have already looked into with the DOE, and we had planned to essentially already be done. But with the recent financial crisis, the Treasury is in not a bad state, but in a less certain situation. And we want to get through this sort of ongoing crisis that's going to take a lot of payments to get through before we consider highly expensive programs such as increasing trade job wages. And we want to make sure that's going to be sustainable for the future. So it is still on the plate. We're just currently waiting out and seeing how feasible it's going to be.
Sophia is asking, what is it with the recent UBI bugs where lawyers get 0 bucks in the UBI? Is it intentional or staff bugs?
That is not intentional, and if that is ongoing, that is a staff bug.
Lost is asking, what's your opinion on the DCT secretary removing jail time from themselves to attend DCT tickets? Do you think it was justified?
I believe the situation has already been dealt with staff, and the DCT secretary has agreed not to abuse his staff permissions to remove jail time from himself in the future. But no, I was not. I did not sign off on that, and I was not. I was not happy to hear that that was happening.
For now, that's all the questions. If anyone has more of them, Go ahead. Oh, Sophia already. Will the DCT make more small plots like it did a few hundred blocks away?
I'm not aware of any current plans to make more small plots. I think when we released the last batch, they sold for very small amounts, like some of them only getting one bid. And if it were up to me, I would say we would definitely wait until it seemed like there was going to be more attention on them or more interest, because those very small amounts of bids indicated that people are likely not interested in those small plots at the current moment.
Reliance is asking, if you had to choose, would you become a Federalist or a Democratic Republican?
A Federalist.
Nice. It's Stormcrafts asking, does the president plan any monetary support for party funding by the state? Question mark.
No, there are no current plans for that.
Reliance is asking, no, it's James Deslay, sorry. They're right below each other. Question, Jedi or the Sith?
I've never watched Star Wars, but I think the Jedi are the good ones, so probably
Yes.
that.
Correct answer. I would say clone. I would say clone. Saturn 9 Scholar, what would you say is the main contributing issue to the financial crisis, and could increased economic activity by small businesses help alleviate it to a certain degree?
So the answer to this question is that there is no single cause. There never is with large economic phenomena like this. One main thing was the lack of regulation that we've historically had on banks, essentially letting them run wild. Another has been that specifically the large banks that we let grow to the gargantuan size that they did were not kept accountable for things like basic accounting and using their depositor money wisely. And those are two things that we're hoping to address through reform currently. As to whether small businesses, economic activity by small businesses could help alleviate it, potentially, you never know what could happen. Any sort of economic activity could have any amount of butterfly effect. But I think addressing those core issues is going to be the main thing we're looking at.
It's Stormcraft is asking, is there any plan for a public news network? PNN?
There's not currently any plans for a public news network, but I won't rule it out entirely.
Luca of my very own The Reveille Times, what is the current status on the apartment registry?
The apartment registry is still planned, but there's not been any, to be transparent, there's not been any progress on it as of yet. A lot of different things have popped up, and we've been focused on other policy goals of ours, but we still do hope to get the apartment registry done before the end of my term.
Sophia is asking, what is the government's stance on lowering congressional wages? I feel like I'm getting an unfair advantage with my $65 wage.
Madam Deputy Senate President, if that is something you want to see, you're very much at your own prerogative to introduce a bill or have a representative introduce a bill to lower that. We're not currently. I'm currently rather satisfied with congressional wages as they stand. There's been some talk of increasing them or doing a salary for members of Congress, which I am not in support of. We currently need to be spending our treasury on larger economic projects rather than enriching our elected officials more. So I am generally in favor of the status quo in terms of congressional wages.
James Deslay, do you support mandatory Medicare?
I do support mandatory Medicare.
Real I'm just asking, dear Madam President, your fellow Edmontians would like to know who you'd vote for in the election of 800, Jefferson or Burr?
Well, they say that at least Jefferson has beliefs, Burr has none. So
That's a
that'd be my
valid
preference.
answer. That's a very valid answer. It's Stormcraft. How long will we need to wait for another funny collapse that I can watch from afar in Stagecraft?
I mean, it seems like they're happening every day. Some kind of crisis is happening every day. So I hope it's fun entertainment from across the pond.
See, we are a realistic political simulator. Better Call Pigeon is asking, how can we help small businesses start their operations? Some current issues small businesses are facing are difficulty getting loans, slow grant process, no venture capital infrastructure, and etc.
We have looked at reforms to the grant process um, to encourage more private loans and to increase efficiency. Currently, the DOC is just in the midst of a lot of things going on, and some of the leadership becoming no longer available. And so, if you are having issues with getting grants out, I apologize, but those should be starting up once things are a little bit more stable, and we'll be getting back to the normal process for that. In terms of getting private loans, that's something that is just going to have to is going to become more available, I think, as the finance sector rebuilds itself.
Morsaki's following up on James's question around mandatory Medicare. Are there plans for the National Health Service? And for some reason in my mind, I read that as Sir Humphrey Appleby. That's a
um,
Yes Minister reference, if anyone saw Yes Minister.
um, Are there plans for a national health service? Currently, I don't think any major restructuring of the DOH at like a base level is necessarily needed. I There have been talk of like separating the DOH into like a policy department and then setting up a separate like national health service. I don't currently think that is necessary. Um, I think the way that the DOH is run right now with the doctors being underneath it is working pretty well. So no, I don't think any structural plans are in the works.
Thornton is asking, are there any plans to implement paramedics?
Yes, there are. I know that Secretary of Health KG is has discussed it internally. There's just a number of other reforms that are happening as well, but I believe that is still in the works. It's gonna be a larger reform that's gonna need some time.
Luca of the Real Times, is the National Welfare Office in the plans of the administration to be prioritized?
Uh, Prioritize, to be transparent, not necessarily. It is still it's still in the plan. One thing I want to reform the National Welfare Office, bring it back kind of, and set up a National Welfare Director to have its own kind of little task force. But there are currently more pressing issues we've been working on, what with finance and department reform, but it's absolutely still in the works.
It's Stormcraft. How do you balance funny collapses and shit going down with effective government?
I think a lot of effective government has to do with managing the funny collapses and managing how shit goes down, if you will. So it's kind of a cycle there.
Frostify, what are your thoughts on the National Health Service Act, specifically the part where it heightens the penalty for infection?
I would say I'm generally in favor of the National Health Service Act, and in favor of increasing penalties for infection and intentional spreading of diseases. I think it's a major problem we've been facing, and increasing that penalty could go a long way in deterring it.
That's all the questions for now. Sophia is back. Do you think that the financial crisis was a recession that Redmond had to have?
I mean, it depends on what you mean by had to have. I mean, bound to happen, I would say yes. I think there were a lot of structural issues going on that were bound to result in a collapse that I've been observing personally since essentially I joined the server. Whether it had to happen or not is kind of a difficult question to answer. I think if some different things went down in the private sector, or if previous administrations and Congresses were more open to stricter financial regulation, there's a chance it could have been avoided. But it very much was something that was bound to happen, in my opinion.
Do you support the Willow becoming a town? Questioned by James Deslane.
Currently, staff's position is that they're not going to allow it. In general, I think if it were to be allowed, I would support it only once it had built itself up a little bit more, had a higher population. Um, but currently, it's not something that I think is feasible, just because it would be staff vetoed.
Jimmy is asking whether he can buy the seat here for all press conferences because he loved it so much because the plan is cool.
You know what, Jimmy? You can have it for free. You can sit there whenever you like.
Sophie is asking, will the government remake the asphalt forest? I think it's a travesty it was removed.
I'm afraid I don't. I'm not quite sure what that is. Uh,
I have no idea either, but just the idea of trees being covered in asphalt
yeah.
is amazing.
So no, I don't think it's in the plans to remake the asphalt forest. No.
Better Call Pigeon is asking, do you support political marriages between the descendants of Wagjap and slash or himself and members of the Red Monchin political sphere?
Um, I mean, if that's something that other people want to engage in, I'm all for it, but I'm not currently pushing for political marriages like that. Not currently.
Luca, Luca of the Rebel Times, has the DOJ jobs self-training guide been revamped yet?
I believe there has been changes to the DOH's training guides. I would have to follow up with KG, but I believe it has been revisited.
Sophia's asking, it was a forest introduced during the 1950 administration where the grass around I'm sorry, it just blipped. Where the grass around trees around the highway connecting Willow Aventura with Oak Ridge.
Around
That's the
trees.
interesting.
I don't think there's any plans to reintroduce that currently now.
Frostify is asking, do you believe we should have tax on low incomes to discourage tax avoidance?
Um, no, I'm generally not in favor of tax on people who are making lower income. I think if we're going to be taxing anyone, it should be the people who are making higher income. But I recently supported the passage of the Reduced Balance Tax Amendment Act that in fact did lower taxes on those making lower amounts of income, those with lower amounts in their balance.
Thornton of TPA is asking, does the current administration have a plans for player retention? If so, what are those plans?
We don't currently have any plans specifically targeted at player retention, to be transparent with you. I think a lot of retaining players is just ensuring that there's good events going on, ensuring that the government is responsive and engaging the community with things like press conferences that we're having right now, and the larger events we're having, and I think that stuff will go a long way to help with player retention. But we don't have anything specifically targeted at that in the works currently.
Thornton, oh, there was a Thornton question. So at Stormcraft, will I get compensated for the 2, maybe 3 sheets I spent on this?
Compensation? No, no, you won't.
Thornton's asking again, are you in favor of increasing the threshold for balance taxes?
Um, I think we've currently got it at a satisfactory level. I think any more could be I think would have to be carefully considered, uh but yeah, we have just increased it from, I believe, 50,000 to 100,000.
Sophia's asking, do you think that there should be extremely low balance taxes to reduce the balance on banks? Reliance on banks, sorry.
Again, I am in favor of lower balance taxes. One solution, I think, looking far into the future, that Congress could consider, is looking into if there would be a feasible way to tax bank balances and then just setting the tax very low, to maintain the same general income from tax revenue. I think that would be the ultimate solution. But right now, since there doesn't appear to be an easy way to tax bank balances, I think reducing balance tax, as we've already done, is a good stopgap solution.
At Stormcraft, can DC contribute in some way to SC not dying?
I think ultimately that's going to be more of a staff issue. It's been sad to see the lowered activity in statecraft, but I think that's more of something that Alexandria and staff have to work out for themselves.
James Deslay, when are you going to announce your nomination for executive advisor?
Um, Soon, hopefully. Hopefully within the next few days, I'll be able to sit down with my vice president and other members of my cabinet and review the executive advisor applications.
Sophia is asking, as someone who helps newbies get started a lot, which can be seen with people like Dry or John Paul, I have struggled to see DOE guides anywhere. Will the admin restart the army of guides?
I think the DOE is currently focused on other initiatives, but that's absolutely something that I could speak with Secretary Inza about. Is increasing the amount of guides we have and increasing their activity, because I agree that is something that that can be seen as a major issue. There's not enough guides, and there's not enough guides actually doing guide work.
Um, Morsaki was asking whether banks are bad. Yes or no?
Are banks bad?
Yes. Yes or no?
I don't think there is a yes or no answer to that question. I think it depends on the bank, and it depends on what you mean by bad. But would I say yes to that question? No, I would not say banks are bad in general.
Will Jorrington learn how to pronounce GWI?
Yes, he will. Yorrington. It is pronounced Gui.
Okay. I will still try. No, no, it's fine. Okay, I'm sorry. I had no idea. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So, Multiman, what is your biggest accomplishment and biggest failure so far?
Oh, that's a tough one. Asking for a bit of self-assessment right there. I think we've made a number of pretty big accomplishments. I personally am pretty proud of the SOWF and the economic redemption plan that we've done. That's been maybe the single thing that's taken the most amount of time, but of course it's hard to count it as an accomplishment, as it's still ongoing and it's still something that we're working on getting out those payments, and we'll have to see how it goes. Biggest failing? I don't know. That's a hard one. I think one of my personal biggest failings was earlier in the administration, when I was kind of um, I was overworking myself, and as we all know, I had to have a bit of a mental health break. I about a less than a month into my term, and I've been working on sort of pacing myself and working on thank you, Pigeon. Working on making sure I'm taking care of my mental health since then.
Jimmy, that's not a bribe. That's just okay. Someone's invisible down there. That's just monetary optimization. So, Pigeon is asking. I just lost it. Should we implement a social credit system into DC?
No, I don't think we should.
Frostify, what are your thoughts on verbal consent no longer being a valid form of consent?
I think the DHS choosing to nix verbal consent is probably overall a good thing. They were getting um, they were getting sometimes dozens of tickets in like very short time spans. A lot of them with just murder consent. They don't have enough people in their workforce to handle all of those tickets to get rid of all those wanted points. And when we already have a police consent command, leaving it as just the command is objectively the more efficient option.
It's Stormcraft's asking, can we end this? The arm I am writing, it hurts.
I would recommend you switch to typing, or take a break.
James the Slay is asking a question. Do you like the Dino Nuggies?
I do like Dino Nuggies. Thank you to whoever gave me these Dino Nuggies. I don't remember who it was. It might have been Jimmy.
Multiman is asking, what advice would you give to players who experience a mental stress?
My advice, that's a good question. My advice would be to take a break when it's necessary. That's what I did. But if you are going to take a break, you need to fully unplug. I think something I've seen a lot of people do is get burnt out. Thank you, Pigeon. Is get burnt out with DC and then say they're going to take a break and then still come into politics chat or legal chat or whatever and like not actually detach themselves. If you're going to do something like that, you need to commit to it. You need to go outside and touch grass or spend some time with your friends. It's important to have a good balance between this virtual environment that can be toxic at times and can be a lot, and between your real life and making sure you have you're spending time doing other things. That's my advice.
What is your opinion or stance on the Open Carry Act by Sophia?
I will be honest and say that I have not had the time to look into that act in particular. And so I wouldn't be comfortable giving a strong position at this moment.
Do you think Hamilton should have taken a break? Imza.
Well, he was always writing like he was running out of time, and I think he probably should have taken a break.
He's following up with a question whether if you were Hamilton, would you take a break?
I think so, yeah.
James is asking, how often do you touch grass?
As often as I can.
So, no more questions?
I'm
We have like 3 more.
seeing I'm seeing maybe a couple in the VC chat.
They just appeared. Person whose name is IDAZUQ. What was your plan for DC when running for president, and do you rate your performance in achieving it?
Um, I released I think a 15-page presidential platform document that you can still read. It's in my campaign Discord that still exists. But that outlined a pretty detailed plan for my administration if I was elected, and we have worked on implementing as much as we can within the short time that we've already had of that. So I would say I'd rate my performance in achieving those plans pretty well.
I'm just following up again on Hamilton. Would you say no to it? The break.
I would say no to it if I was married.
Multiman again, what is your stance on the legalization of pipe bombs?
I am not in favor of the legalization of pipe bombs.
I'm sorry, I'm just lowering my volume.
Oh, you're all good.
Uh, Sophia's asking, why does the president suck the blood of poor citizens of Redmond since she's a vampire?
I I gotta eat, girl. You know where else am I gonna get it?
James is asking, why is this becoming about Hamilton?
That would be a question for Emza, honestly.
Okay, do we have more questions?
That might be we might take one or two more if they come in, but it seems like questions are slowing down and we've been here for about 40-ish minutes. So we might have time for one or two more.
Okay, so how many Hamilton songs do you know from your head? It's Stormcraft.
Almost all of them. I'm really obsessed with that musical.
Girl Fail Coded. Thoughts on villager rights?
Um, I'm more in favor of player rights over villager rights, but I think they have the right not to be murdered at the very least. I think we have that law.
Um, a multi-man is asking, what is your biggest goal over the next 2 weeks and 3 months?
Biggest goal over the 2 weeks is probably getting out the SOWF payments as much as possible, um, and reviewing some of my executive order plans that I've been sort of rotating in my mind, seeing if I can get one or two of those out. 2 months, I think, is the rest of is approaching the rest of my term, and I'm hoping to implement the rest of my presidential policy platform before the end of my term.
Sophia's asking, what is your stance on the people who say bedrockers are inferior?
I think all players are equal. That's my stance, bedrocker or not.
Multi-man, in your opinion, should towns be able to make and prosecute summary charges for minor local crimes?
That's the first time I'm honestly hearing of that idea. I think I'd have to look into it more to see if it would be feasible. But in general, I think I'm pretty satisfied with the current stance of town autonomy. So I think any introduction of prosecution in towns would have to be carefully considered at the very least.
Pigeon is asking, what are your thoughts on Iron Golem and Copper Golem rights? Do you support the term clanker?
uh, I, no comment at this time.
James is asking, do you like DG when before CRP? I have no idea what that sentence means.
Are we talking about former President Lil Digivert? I I don't think I really knew him before coming on to DC, and I don't think he's been active in my time on DC, so no real opinion before or after CRP.
Sophia is asking whether the president would support a localized version of the DCT for Aventura, similar to the one I have partially led myself in Oak Ridge.
Yeah, I think if that was something that the Aventuran administration is in favor of, I see no reason to be against a property department.
Multiman is asking, how should towns enforce property standards?
I think the general executive administration is in part responsible for enforcing towns bylaws. Currently, that's the status quo. If there was any interest in a change to that, I think I'd be open to reform. But I think that's currently how it is, and I think it's working relatively well from my observations.
Would the president support turning Redmond into a full federal state? It's Stormcraft.
No, I would not. I'm not in favor of federalism in Redmond. I don't think there's enough difference in material conditions across the different towns and regions to justify federalism.
Reliance is asking, how much autonomy would you want to give the towns?
I mean, I'm always in favor of essentially as much autonomy as can reasonably given to local governments. I think there's a point when it could become unreasonable, but through initiatives such as my revised Towns Rights EO, I've always been in support of towns getting as much autonomy as they can reasonably handle.
James the Slay, what is your stance on player religions?
I think player religions are fine. I'm not in favor of a state religion as they've seemingly made in Alexandria, but I think if individual players want to make their own role play religions, I have no issue with that.
Sophia's asking whether the president would support local allocation for a Senate seat, similar to the initial policy platform of the party.
No, I would not be in favor of that. I don't think towns need special representation in our Congress.
Would the president support localized lists for the House? It's Stormcraft.
Localized lists. Are we talking about um, if you're asking about like setting up multiple districts for our STV, I don't think I would be in favor of that. As I've said, I don't think there's enough differing material conditions between different areas of Redmont to justify any regional representation like that. I think having one big constituency is working pretty well for us.
EATB is asking a question which I will have to ask EATB to clarify. So, EATB, do you mean a semi presidential system or do you mean a parliamentary republic? They were asking whether you would support a transition away from a presidential republic to a presidential parliamentary. Okay, so they mean parliamentary republic.
I would not support a transition to a parliamentary republic. I think our presidential system is working pretty well as is.
Stormcraft's asking, we blocked that religion for a few days.
That
We are
seems to
very
be a
respectful.
statement more than a
Okay, I'm
question.
sorry. For some reason, I thought there was a question mark there. Sorry. I really, for some
Oh,
reason, I saw
okay.
a question mark there. So, Dodgington is asking, do you have any comment on the Federal Reserve Bill, which is currently being voted on in the Senate?
I think I commented on that a little bit earlier in this press conference, but I do think that the Federal Reserve Bill that Speaker Omega has proposed does have some flaws that I'm hoping that the Senate will amend. I think it has some pretty major oversights and some pretty major changes that need to be made to it. I think
Uh,
we can take one more question.
yeah, multi-man, that question has been asked, but I can ask it again. It's about the bill to restore faith.
I think we've already answered that, so we'll take one other question if anyone wants
Yeah.
to ask one.
For the record, that was the answer was no, right?
Yeah, I don't generally support that bill. I think it gives the DCT more unnecessary work, and I don't support joke politics.
So James Deslay is asking, why do you think you won the presidential election? And that will be our last question.
I mean, I think there's a lot of different reasons why I won. We had a big show out for the election. It was a pretty wide margin that I was honestly surprised to see. But I think generally people were pretty tired of like old style Bezer politics, and I think it was partially because of his previous showing as a Speaker of the House, where he was relatively inactive and neglected his duties, and I think it was partially because people appreciated the detailed and progressive policy platform that I put forward. Not to mention, we put a lot of effort into campaigning and connecting with the populace, and I was really happy to see all the support we got during the presidential election.
All right, so that was almost an hour of answering your questions and addressing the public. Thank you all for coming here. And if the president wants to say some more words at the end, he's welcome to do so.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone for coming. I don't have a closing statement prepared, but I have been asked by the by the health secretary to refer you all to this health form for feedback regarding the some of the DOH reforms. So if you all want to help us out with that feedback, that would be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, thank you all for coming, and thank you all for the interesting questions this time around. We're hoping to have another one as soon as we can.